you heard that the Druid does terrible DPS? Well, that's what I'm hearing on the forums and YouTube videos by so-called expert players. I found several ways for the Druid to be really successful based on only one or two items. So this is one of them. Let's get into it. Alright, let's get into the build. I'm calling this Earth and Fur. Okay, so let's go over the core items that are a part of this build. First one is your wolf companions are now werewolf companions. Werewolf companions deal 80% additional damage and can spread rabies. This just makes your pets hit a hell of a lot harder. The next one, which I think is more important, it's gain one additional companion. In addition to your companion skill deals 220% bonus damage. I do recommend it being on a two-hander because it hits way harder. So if this is on a one-hander, it'll be 110%. If it's on a two-hander, it's a 220%. So that means you get an additional raven, a raven passive attacking, and you get an additional wolf. Okay, so 3 wolves, 2 ravens. And it ends up being a hell of a lot more damage. Okay, and then the third one that I recommend as core to this is Landslide's Earth Pillars. Each strike a second time and deal an additional 7% bonus damage. This just makes it so Landslide hits very, very hard. I mean, it hits twice. And this, along with some of your other abilities, is going to enable you to chunk bosses and elites. I mean, elites at this level, at level 25, you're just going to be insta-glibbing them. With bosses, they're not going to last very long, you know, a minute. The fight might last a minute if they're lucky. Alright, and then some of the optional ones, I would say restore 2 of your primary resource. It's just handy, so when you're using your Vine Creeper and you're CCing pretty much everything on your screen, it just adds a lot more spirit, right? To just ensure that you're not starved, and it just tops you up just before you do your landslides. So it's pretty cool. Another optional, I would say, strong optional, is your companions gain the bonuses from the Bestial Rampage key passive. Okay, so that key passive is way down in the tree, and it basically makes the werewolves attack 20% faster. I still have to experiment with this, but it sounds really strong. So I would say that's a strong optional. And Bulwark. There we go. So the duration of Earth and Bulwark is increased by 6 seconds. In addition, killing an enemy with Earth skills replenishes 20% of your active Earth and Bulwark. So it just makes it so that your Earth and Bulwark sticks around for a really long time. And that's our get out of jail free card as well, because it makes you unstoppable. I feel like on these builds you gotta at least have one of those, because every once in a while there's gonna be CC that crops up that just freezes you in place. So you pop your unstoppable skill and you just keep fighting. Yeah. Alright, let's go through the skills. So I'll just go through them quick right here, and then we'll go into the skill tree. So we've got Earth Spike, really just there to generate spirit for you. It's a ranged skill. It has a bit of an AoE. There's an example of it. And Landslide, it hits for, 8 to 1,000 damage there. 2 Pillars of Earth. If it hits an enemy, it's gonna hit twice. It has a chance. It just has a whole bunch of great abilities to it. it's mainly there. I'm using it for enormous amounts of damage. And then we have Earthen Bulwark, which is our, again, get out of jail free card. Just adds an enormous amount of Fortify. Right? Has a nice barrier there, life. It's fantastic. Vine Creeper. Basically a giant AoE that poisons everything. And in many cases, it's going to kill all the trash. Just with that one ability. You walk into a room, hey, you know what? There's a ton of stuff here. You just press Vine Creeper, and it melts almost everything. And then whatever isn't getting instantly melted, your werewolves are going to take care of. Ravens. This is our setup skill. So it hits pretty hard. What you do is you pop it on the ground. It makes the elite or the boss vulnerable. And then you follow up with your nuke, which is your landslide. And then we have a secondary nuke, which is our wolves. I found with this build, I didn't need to have an ultimate skill. It's just this stuff hits so hard. So yeah, you hit them with the ravens, and then, I mean, you can glue them down with the Vine Creeper, throw down the ravens on them, and then just smack them with the landslide while the landslide is conjuring. You just follow up with the werewolves, and most stuff just doesn't survive. I mean, most stuff you don't even need to do the wolves, so you're just going to be doing that on the bosses a lot of the time. Unless you had an imperfect setup and the ravens didn't hit, you probably won't even need the wolves. I just use this sort of as a reserve skill for extra, like say 2 elites pop up. Well, often what I'll do is I'll throw down ravens on one, insta-glib with landslide. I'll turn around and I'll just sick the wolves on the other guy, and they're both dead instantaneously. And I'll show you that in the gameplay. And I don't have a ton of attack power here. 464 attack power, which is not a hell of a lot. But stuff's dying. So that's what matters. Okay, so let's go through the skill tree here real quick. We've got Earth Spike. So I decided to, obviously just put an extra couple points in here. The damage doesn't matter all that much. It's mostly for the utility. Earth Spike has a 10% chance to stun for 3 seconds. Summon a second Earth Spike when hitting an immobilized enemy. So this just helps you generate a little extra spirit. Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Landslide, max this out. It does a lot of damage. It is a fantastic nuke skill. After landslide damages enemies 4 times, the next hit will immobilize enemies for 3.5 seconds. Now, this gives you a tear mote every time. Okay, I'll just read it out. When you immobilize or stun an enemy, you gain a tear mote. Each enemy hit by landslide consumes a tear mote, causing a guaranteed critical strike. Guaranteed. With 40% critical strike damage, and bosses always have up to 10% chance to grant a tear mote. So, every time you use Vine Creeper, you are going to get a lot of stacks. And this just means those stacks, you use one of them every time you get a guaranteed critical strike on an enemy with landslide. And with this ability, you're never, and Vine Creeper, you're really never going to run out of guaranteed critical strikes for your landslide. So you walk into a group of enemies, you hit Vine Creeper, you get a ton of stacks, and then anytime you decide to use your landslide, it's a guaranteed critical hit. And it hits for 40% more critical strike damage. It's ridiculous. So you're hitting like an absolute freight train all the time with landslide. Alright, moving on. You got Bulwark. I just decided, obviously I'm going to take the Unstoppable because that makes it our get out of jail free card, and cast an Earthen Bulwark grants extra base life, right, as Fortify. So yeah, it's basically you can have barrier on top of your life, and you can have Fortify on top of your life. You're going to find that as you're just going through things, you're not going to find the content very challenging with this build. On World Tier 2, I wish they had higher World Tiers. You're going to have like 2 health pools. You're going to have like, you're going to end up having probably 500. If you don't get hit, you're going to get hit, 513 Fortify and 513 life. So you're going to be basically a double health pool. And I don't know. Use it judicious. It's up to you when you use it. Honestly, if you find out you're dying, then maybe use, work on your timing a little bit. But honestly, you can hit it whenever. I like it better than the Barbarian one, because the Barbarian one, you often wanted to hit Iron Skin at under 50% health to get the full benefit. This one, you just hit it whenever the heck you want, and it's great. I love it. I would say for that reason, it's definitely easier to pull off. Right? Okay, Wolves. I didn't feel like the 4% damage I was gonna get every time I put a point into this was really worth it. So I put points elsewhere. So really, I just put 1 point in each here. So we've got 1 point in Wolves. We've got the 20% increased damage because we're doing a ton of immobilizing and stunning on these enemies, or poison. So, your werewolves are always going to be doing 20% extra damage almost. And every time they hit something, they have a chance to fortify you. That's why, you're going to have a double health pool a lot of times. So that's added survivability for you. Vine Creeper. I really didn't see the benefit in these last couple. You could experiment with it if you want, but 1 point is enough. It's incredible how strong this skill is with just 1 point in it. And I just increased the immobilized duration by an extra second. I haven't experimented with it a ton. You could maybe use it as a free point. I just kind of left it like that. Ravens, obviously. I put a few points into this because I liked how much damage, the active damage, bumped up every time I put a point into it. It was roughly like 8 or 9%, which was kind of nice. As opposed to the Wolves, which was, like 4% every time I put a point into it. So you got Enhanced Ravens. Increased critical strike for 6 seconds against enemies hit by ravens, which is, that's okay. This is the big one right here. Everything inside that pack of ravens is going to be vulnerable for 3 seconds. So, it makes it a setup skill. It's fantastic. And so I think I only have, item contribution 1. So I have 3 points in here, +2, plus these 2, I mean. And and then we have Call of the Wild. Basically makes it all companions deal 30% bonus damage. So your 2 ravens and your 3 werewolves and your Vine Creeper passives, well, everything, they're just going to be doing bonus damage. I think this affects the actives and the passives, which, if it does, that just, it's even better reason to take it. But I think it's even if it was just one or the other, I would still probably put 3 points in there. Really strong. I experimented over and over and over with this stuff in the Wrath tree. It just really didn't benefit this build that much, so I left it out. Same thing with the ultimates. I experimented with everything. Like, I even look at the damage on Lacerate. You think, okay, this is pretty cool. You basically go stealth and you dash across enemies. I experimented with it being a part of the get out of jail free card. It just felt underwhelming. And I just stuck with the basics, and it feels like it's a stronger build. I mean, you can experiment with it too, up to you. And that's it. That's the whole build in a nutshell. Yeah, I'm going to show a couple of minutes of gameplay, and if you liked it, please leave a comment, like and subscribe if you want to see more, and enjoy the build. Have a good one.
of spirit.